Nintendo's goofy patents are so abstract that you'd think they came straight from grandma's midday hallucinations, and nobody would know that better than Palworld. Recently there's been a bizarre update to their lawsuit that began all the way back in 2024, and things are looking a bit shaky to say the least. However, the only thing Nintendo loves more than money is taking people to court, so who knows how long they'll drag this thing out for. Are they still secretly mad that they couldn't sue over the design of the pals, or are they just jealous that Palworld can run at a steady 60 frames per second? It's like Nintendo declares war on anything fun that they themselves didn't invent. Anyway, today we're going to dive deep into the most recent updates surrounding the Nintendo versus Palworld lawsuit, how we even got here in the first place, and who's actually gonna win this thing. Stay tuned, we'll give our predictions near the end of the video, but first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Let's start with the most recent and biggest updates to this lawsuit, which just dropped just a few days ago. Actually, Nintendo just modified one of their patents mid lawsuit. That's right, one of the patents that they're using against Palworld in this lawsuit, they have modified that patent mid lawsuit to include weird phrases such as even when. Experts are calling this move bizarre and say it might show that Nintendo's case is crumbling. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, why now? Why would they tweak a patent at this moment in time? We'll explore that soon, but first let's talk a little bit more about what else has happened recently in the last few months. In May of 2025, Palworld's developer Pocketpair actually released a pretty big update to the game where they removed your ability to use your pals to fly around the world. So obviously they ditched the mechanics like pal based gliding to avoid some of Nintendo's patent claims in this lawsuit. Palworld is just playing it safe here. They're just trying to dodge an injunction. They don't want the game to get shut down temporarily or anything like that. And then back in February and March of this year, Nintendo scored some patents in the United States, which is actually a big deal because, as you guys know, Pocketpair and Nintendo are currently in a legal battle in Japan exclusively at the time of recording this video. So having Nintendo file some patents in the United States that are similar to the patents they're using against Palworld in Japan indicates that Nintendo is looking to sue Pocketpair in other countries around the world as well, because let's face it, the Japanese market is one thing, but the big market that Palworld really dominated and really makes the most money from is the United States. And guess what market Nintendo also makes a ridiculous amount of money from off of the back of their Pokemon franchise? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the US of A. But here's the best part, right? This is the kicker. Okay, one of the US patent applications by Nintendo actually had 22 out of 23 of their claims completely rejected. So the question is Nintendo's strategy just falling apart here? They're trying to reword patents in Japan, they're trying to file new ones in the US, but they're getting shot down. Could Palworld actually win this thing? Well, let's first take a look at what actually is the lawsuit. Like, what is actually going on here, because this started all the way back in 2024. So let me refresh you guys on the timeline. Okay, January 19th 2024, Palworld launches in early access, hitting 25 million players. If you guys remember, the launch of Palworld was a big deal. I was grinding this game and it was fantastic. People were talking all over Twitter about how, hey, it's Pokemon with guns and the designs are AI, and it was basically just the Wild West over there in Palworld, but nobody really cared. Why? Because the game prioritized fun over anything else. It was a little bit janky, it was a little bit of a rip-off. Everyone kind of knew that, but it didn't matter because everyone was having a blast. I remember watching Asmongold stream this game, and it was just, what a fantastic moment to be a part of. I had so much fun with Palworld in the first like week that it came out, but then came the Pokemon Company just knocking on the door. Ladies and gentlemen, they heard we were having fun in there, they're trying to kick it down, they're trying to end the party. It's like when you were back in college and the neighbors called the police on the house party. It's like, come on, I'm only 9 shots deep, the party just got started, who cares if it's 2 a.m. just chill out, Karen. Anyway, September 18th 2024, Nintendo and Pokemon sue Pocketpair in the Tokyo District Court, claiming Palworld infringes 3 patents on capturing Pokemon, aiming as part of the capture mechanic apparently, and mount switching mechanics. They would like an injunction and $65,000 in damages. For those of you that don't know what an injunction is, it is a judicial order that restrains a person or company from beginning or continuing an action threatening or invading the legal right of another, or that compels a person to carry out a certain act. So I think the Pokemon Company's motive is pretty clear here, right? Because $65,000 to them that's less than pocket change for the Pokemon Company. They make billions of dollars, like it's insane. 65 grand is less than a rounding error. It's effectively $0. It means nothing to them. What they really want is the injunction to force Pocketpair to shut down Palworld at least until the legal battle is over. And as you guys know, Pokemon is interested in keeping parties in the legal system for long periods of time because they've got infinite money that they can use to keep you held up in court. And really, they don't care about the 65 grand. They just want to delete Palworld because, well, because Palworld figured out how to do an open world Pokemon like game that people actually enjoy, that's actually fun, that runs at 60 frames, that have modern day textures, and has a lot of features that people have been begging Pokemon for like what, a decade and a half at this point. So basically Nintendo's pissed off that Palworld made a great game, and they've been failing to do that for at least a better part of a decade. I mean, we've had the Switch Pokemon games, just, you guys know my stance on those if you saw my 2 videos last week. Anyway, November 8th 2024, Pocketpair reveals the patents and fights back, saying that they are invalid, and cites games like Rune Factory 5 and Final Fantasy 14 as prior art. Now, if you guys don't know what prior art is in a legal sense, in patent law, prior art refers to any publicly available information that describes an invention before a patent application is filed. So basically Palworld's defense in this legal battle is saying like, hey, how could you possibly have patents on these such generic basic game mechanics that exist in all these other games that even predate you know, some of these games might even predate Pokemon. Okay, so like capturing monsters, what, are you kidding me? Sorry if my fan goes on and off during this video. By the way, it's 104 degrees in New York City today, so I'm about to strip naked and jump off the November 30th 2024, Palworld's patch 0.3.11 removes the Pal sphere throwing mechanic, likely to avoid infringement. They're playing it safe. All right, Palworld said before they even launched the game, they had the game legally reviewed to make sure that it was perfectly legal. Despite that, they're playing it safe. They're saying, okay, listen, Nintendo's coming after us, we don't want no problems. All right, we're chilling, we're just doing our own thing. If you want us to take out the Pal spheres, fine, we'll take out the Pal spheres, no big deal. So now, instead of throwing your balls and having a a Pal pop out, okay, they just kind of summon right next to you. You just kind of and they boom and pop up. Okay, fast forward to February 11th 2025, Nintendo secures a patent on capturing mechanics, but gets another mostly rejected by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So this was reported on by GamesFray, and they actually cover 3 things here. First of all, a patent they got in the US in December, the one that we just mentioned in February, and then the one that actually got a bit rejected. So let's start with the December one here. So this is the actual patent right here, and this is just filled with BS generic legalese. Okay, nobody understands this. I'm not even sure lawyers understand it. By the way, I'm not a lawyer. None of this video is legal advice. Okay, this video is purely for entertainment purposes only, because I am top 3 biggest goofballs on YouTube, so there's no way you should take anything I take in this video seriously. Okay, but anyway, basically their December patent that they got in the US is about a first mode and a second mode. The first mode is that you pick a capture item like a ball, and the second mode, alternative mode, is that you unleash a fighting character. If you use a capture item, first mode, and successfully catch a field character, a character that is out there for the taking, your character, the player character, owns it. If you use a fighting character, it will pick a fight with the field character. So the patent is basically about like, okay, if you've already got a Pokemon out and there's a Pokemon out in the field and you throw the ball, then you're going to start the fight. Okay, this is pretty similar to like if you played Legends Arceus or anything like that, right? You see a Pokemon, you throw your Pokeball at it that has your starter Pokemon, and boom, a battle initiates. Likewise, instead of throwing your Pokemon at it, if you throw an empty Pokeball, you attempt to capture that monster, right? That's basically what this patent is from December. Okay, it wasn't that a lot easier than reading all this bullshit right here. The legal system makes no sense. Anyway, here is the new patent from February of this year. I'm not going to read the actual patent itself, but basically GamesFray reports that what this claim covers is very similar to the one we showed in the first section. They use some different terminology here, quote, virtual character instead of field character, and quote, obtaining item instead of catching item, end quote. There's also a reference to the display of probability of a catching operation, similarly to what Japanese patent attorney Ryo Arashida, sorry if I mispronounced his name, observed with respect to some patent filing activity in Japan. This patent is apparently also designed to avoid the distinction between a first mode and second mode. So you know how like in Palworld when you used to throw a Pal sphere and it would like show you the probability of capturing the Pal? I think this is somewhat related to that, although again, if you are a legal expert, you can comment down below. And then the final thing that they reported on here was in February, saying Nintendo is grappling with a hard choice after US Patent Office overwhelmingly rejected anti-Palworld patent applications. So as you can see here, they have 23 claims and 22 of them were rejected, and just a single claim was objected to, so it wasn't allowed. but it was objected to. And here's claim 22. This was not rejected, but this was objected to. I'm gonna actually read this one, okay? Quote, a non-transitory computer readable storage medium having stored therein the game program according to claim 1, wherein in association with the player character approaching a ground of the virtual space while the player character is moving in the air aboard the airboarding character, switching from the airboarding character to the boarding character when a distance between the player character and the ground satisfies the threshold valued. That's a whole lot of words to say that when you're flying on a mountain, you land, you end up on a ground mount. Okay, I mean, this has been around since World of Warcraft Burning Crusade. Like, what are we talking about, Nintendo? Anyway, the reason that this was objected to is because it is reliant on at least one of the other 22 patents that were rejected. So basically the United States was like, hey, listen, this one might be accepted if you make it independent. Okay, now as far as I can tell, the patent for the air to ground mount system was actually gotten by Nintendo in the US in March. Okay, I could be wrong about that, but you can let me know in the comments if that's true. On April 22nd of 2025, Pocketpair and Palworld filed their defenses, arguing that Nintendo's patents aren't new and citing more prior art. Now, more specifically regarding Pocketpair's prior art claims, there's a long list of video games that they actually cite as prior art, but let's break down just a couple of them. So first of all, they cite Rune Factory 5, Titanfall 2, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Palworld is claiming that these 3 games make it easy to see how a player character can perform an action to release a monster or a capture item like a ball and fire in a direction by releasing a button, right? Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Far Cry 5, and Tomb Raider already showed that there can be different types of throwable objects. Pocket Souls, Octopath Traveler, Monster, Super League, and Final Fantasy XIV made it easy to imagine that one could pick targets on the field and then show an indication of how likely the capture operation is to succeed. And generally speaking, it has been an element of the Pokemon series for more than 30 years that different capture items have different success rates. Alternatively to Craftopia, one can also start with the Pixelmon mod for Minecraft. Now I'm going to link this down in the description below. I'm not going to go through everything here because this is a super long article and it's like mega detailed and has a lot to do with legal stuff that I have no idea about. But basically Palworld was like, look, there's a dozen games out there that do all these things that you're claiming are infringing of your patents, and yet some of these games predate your patents, right? Some of these Nintendo patents weren't even filed until like 2021, right before they released, probably at least during the making of Scarlet and Violet, right? That's, I mean, you're riding on Koraidon and Miraidon, you're flying through the air, things like that. Some of these patents were definitely filed during that time before the release of Scarlet and Violet. And so, you know, Palworld is picking games like Titanfall 2. They're like, look, some of these patents you claim to have perfectly describe elements and features of other games that have existed for years, right? So like, that's Pocketpair's defense here. And honestly, with the number of games that they're citing, I think they have a pretty strong defense. Then of course we get to May of this year, which, as we said earlier, patch 0.5.5 for Palworld replaces PAL-based gliding with a generic glider, a disappointing change that Pocketpair blames on the lawsuit. Now I'm pretty sure in Palworld, now that you don't ride on or glide with your pals, I'm pretty sure your pals just provide a passive boost or bonus to your gliding speed or movement speed or whatever. I haven't played the game since 2024, so I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's how the game works now. And then finally we get to today, Nintendo's odd patent tweak, which is raising eyebrows and suggesting that they are scrambling to strengthen their case. That's right, Nintendo has rewritten one of its own patents mid-lawsuit, and in the words of experts, it's bizarre. Experts are saying that rewriting your patent mid-lawsuit is typically a move that usually only happens when the original patent looks weak. The updated version uses some bizarre language allegedly and includes the phrase, quote, even when, which is not standard or clear in patent law apparently. I don't know. So here's what the new patent says, and this is just a portion of the patent. So it says, and even when any boarding character other than the aerial boarding character capable of moving in the air is the currently selected boarding character and a first operation input is given when the player character is in the air, the computer causes the aerial boarding character to appear in the virtual space and causes the player character to board the aerial boarding character instead of the currently selected boarding character from among the boarding characters. Here's what GameSpray has to say. Now, patent claims are not like everyday language. The type of wording used is extremely contorted, trying to complicate things for the purpose of putting up a huge smokescreen, and above all, even when, quote, even when is normally not found in patent claims. Conditions such as if, when are normal in patent claims, but even is a word that has no place in patent claims. It is too emphatic and subjective. Patent claims have the purpose of describing how certain means are used to achieve a particular end, and to do so in a way that at least those who know a thing or two about patent law will have an idea of what the patent covers. The name of the game is the claim. The claims define the scope. Florian Mueller says, I've been following patent litigation for 15 years, for the better part of that period as a consultant, and I've seen many claims that were amended, but I've never seen quote even when or quote even if in a patent claim. It's bizarre. Now I know what you're thinking. Is this legal? The answer is yes. Apparently you can alter your own patents. Now this, of course, again, this lawsuit is currently going on in Japan, right? And allegedly it is legal for a party of the lawsuit to go and change their patent mid lawsuit. But like, I mean, I don't know anything about the legal system, but if I were like the judge or someone in the lawsuit, I would be looking at that like, like, I don't know, man. You see, it seems like you're kind of doing a Hail Mary at that point. Like you're pretty sure you're going to lose. So you're just trying like a last ditch effort, like, oh, but actually what we meant was for our patent to be worded like this. Now what do you think about that, huh? What do you think about that? I mean, I'm pretty sure that does not strengthen our case, and I feel like, I don't know, probably not, you know what I mean? So what's going on here? All right, I know what you're thinking, Omniarch, just who's winning? Okay, just get to the part where you tell us who's gonna win this thing. All right, well, let's remind ourselves of a couple of things. First of all, Pocketpair has already changed Palworld to remove some of the accused features like using PAL spheres and gliding. Okay, Palworld also is arguing that Nintendo's patents themselves are invalid, pointing to older games that predate their patents with similar mechanics as the patent's language, and saying, hey, look at these dozen games, all of these games have something that relates to your patents, so how could you possibly patent these things when they pre-existed? They already are in games. You can't have a patent on things that existed before you filed them. And the third claim, and this is a big one for Pocketpair if they can prove it, is that Pocketpair allegedly has demo versions of their game that go all the way back to June of 2021 that show that there was gliding in the game prior to Nintendo's patent. So that would be really big for them, right? If they can prove that there was gliding already implemented into the game way back before Nintendo filed the patent for it, which I assume is related to Scarlet and Violet, right? Then they could just say like, look, how could you possibly have invented this mode of transportation in video games? We already did it before you. I don't know, I think that's a pretty strong case. But really the big thing here is Nintendo's patent tweak this month in July of 2025. It looks desperate, right? Their US patents look like they're struggling, right? It looks like a lot of them have been rejected, and I guess we'll have to wait and see, but really things aren't looking super good for Nintendo in my opinion. Now Nintendo does have a long history of legal battles, especially related to IP and copyright infringement and things like that. Okay, I know this is patents a little bit different, but everyone knows about Nintendo's legal team, right? The joke within the community is that Nintendo is a law firm that just so happens to make video games, right? Like that's how bad Nintendo's reputation is right now in the legal world. Okay, but here's the thing, I think Pocketpair has a decent chance at winning this, or just straight up settling out of court. Okay, and here's why. First of all, they've already dodged the infringement case because they've already changed the game, they've already updated it, and this is one of the beautiful things about an indie developer like Pocketpair, right? They have, last time I checked, they have less than 100 employees at Pocketpair. Like this is a tiny studio, it's kind of insane, right? And one of the cool things about tiny studios is that you are so nimble, you can move so quick in the industry, you don't have to go through 15 chains of command just to get the approval to implement a color change for your outfit in a game, right? Like it's really actually quite quick. And so because they are indie, because they have that advantage, they were able to just be like, okay, fine, you don't like gliding, boom, it's done, take it out, it's already gone. Like it took Nintendo, however many months to come up with this whole legal thing and the patent thing, and they got all their patents together and their ducks are in a row, and they're like, oh, this is what you did, you broke all these rules. And they're like, all right, we changed it. And they're like, what do you mean you changed it? Yeah, no, we changed it, we already took, it's already gone, we're fine, you don't want us to use spheres, fine, we took them out. Like that's a big advantage that Pocketpair has, and one of the exclusive advantages of indies, because Nintendo, I mean, it takes them 3 years to build a game, and the game is like a quarter done, right? I mean, we just saw the Legend ZA trailer, the game looks like absolute garbage, right? Like it's anyone who's not sucking down the Nintendo Kool-Aid knows that Legend ZA is a joke. The other 80% of the gaming community looks at Pokemon games and they're like, oh my god, they still look like trash, and then they go back to playing whatever else they've been playing, right? Only the Nintendo Pokemon fanboys think that ZA looks anywhere remotely remotely close to good. But anyway, it takes Nintendo a really long time to do anything, and Pocketpair is on the ball because they've only got like, you know, 80 people. On top of that, it seems like Pocketpair has a pretty strong case with their prior art argument, and that actually is a really powerful attack on Nintendo, because if Pocketpair actually wins that, right, that could invalidate Nintendo's patents themselves, and that is a huge thing that Nintendo absolutely does not want to happen. If there's one thing that Nintendo does not want, it is to lose their patents or have their patents invalidated, right? They want those to stay intact so they can try to use them at some point in the future in 40 years, so they could sue some, you know, 60-year-old grandmother who owns a grocery store in Puerto Rico, right? They're gonna find some reason to sue somebody later down the line because of these patents, who knows, right? So here's the three outcomes. First of all, Pocketpair could win. All right, the court could rule that Nintendo's patents are invalid, letting Palworld thrive. I don't think that's going to happen. I honestly think that before that happens, there will be a settlement, which just brings us to our second outcome. Both sides might agree to let Palworld continue with tweaks, maybe with a small licensing fee. Okay, what this would allow is Palworld continues to exist, they continue to operate, they, you know, remove gliding, they remove spheres, whatever, and maybe they'll have to pay Nintendo the 65 grand, or maybe they'll have to pay a licensing fee to use those patents, or whatever the case might be, and Nintendo gets to walk away and says, hey, listen, we brought them to court, we made them pay us for our patents, and it is what it is. And then they get to keep those patents, by the way, they're not ruled invalidated, right, which is huge for them. That would be the biggest benefit to Nintendo. Or the third outcome is the long fight, and Nintendo could drag this thing out, especially if they push for a US lawsuit, but their case is looking shaky, boys. I'm gonna be honest. The most likely outcomes are either a settlement or the long fight. I don't think Pocketpair is gonna win, even if like they have justice on their side, right? Like even if technically they should win just based on everything, I think everyone could see that, right? It's clear as day. I don't think Nintendo will let them. I think they will settle before that, but I actually don't think Nintendo will want to settle, and here's why. Remember what I said earlier in the video, they are suing for injunction and $65,000, right? Or it's like 5 million yen or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. Why would they be suing for such a small amount of money? It's because they want the injunction. Why do they want the injunction? Because they want to shut Palworld down. Why do they want to shut Palworld down? Well, that's because back in February, Palworld hit 32 million players across PC and consoles, cementing its place among best-selling indie games. I actually referred to this article when we talked about Legends ZA and their trailer and how bad it was, and this is why Nintendo is shaking in their boots, because Palworld has a higher total player base than Scarlet and Violet, right? Objectively, Scarlet and Violet did not sell 32 million copies. Like there are more Palworld players than there are Scarlet and Violet players. It's actually kind of insane when you think about that, because Pokemon's a 30-year-old franchise. Palworld comes out with one game and just PvPs Nintendo 1v1, and they come out ahead with more players. Now look, 10 million of those are on, you know, Xbox Game Pass, all right, so they didn't really pay for the game, but the point is there's a lot of people playing and enjoying Palworld, okay? And this is awful for Nintendo. Why? Because as we've covered on the channel, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have been getting away with releasing slop garbage for the last better part of a decade, at least 7 years now. We can all agree that the 3DS is where things started to go downhill. I liked the 3DS games, okay? I like X and Y, I like Sun and Moon, I like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, some of my favorite Pokemon games that have ever come out, period, okay? So I liked the 3DS games, but I think if you were to ask the general Pokemon population as a whole, I would say that the games were decent on the Game Boy, good on the Advance, great on the DS, good on the 3DS, bad on the Switch. I think it's a pretty clear, it's almost like a standard distribution type of curve. Okay, we know that the games on the Switch have not lived up to the expectations of the players. People thought, oh, we're getting an open world Pokemon game, and then they got just a blank canvas. Basically the open world was completely unfinished, and all the games on the Switch have been mediocre at best, if not downright garbage, like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So Pokemon has spent many years pumping out Pokemon games and just feeding off of the flesh of their fans that are begging for a good game and getting garbage in return. But because there's really not much competition to Pokemon, they've just been buying it up, right? There's nostalgia, there's just the hope that it's better this time. It's like Stockholm syndrome type of thing, right? Like Pokemon fans are so brainwashed into thinking that the games are good still, that they will defend it up, down, left, right, and sideways, because they can't handle the fact that the best days are behind us, right? So Pokemon's been getting away with releasing slop for a long time, but if Palworld exists, well, now we have an alternative. We have a quality game, or at least a higher quality. I'm not even trying to sit here and act like Palworld's 10 out of 10. Okay, if I were to say, I would say Palworld's maybe a 7.5 out of 10, but that's a higher rating than I would give Scarlet and Violet. That's a higher rating than I would give Legends Arceus. That's a higher rating than I would give Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, or Sword and Shield, or Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, right? So that's saying a lot. Okay, but the point is, Palworld is competition. Nintendo does not want competition, which is why they're suing for injunction and a tiny amount of money, right? They want to shut the game down. And another point here that is extremely worth noting is that Nintendo locks their IPs so powerfully to their own hardware, right? The only way you can officially play Pokemon is on the Switch, right? If you want to play Scarlet and Violet, you need a Switch 1 or 2, right? That's literally it. There's no other way to play them. And so Nintendo is actually unable to tap into the demographics that Palworld is able to tap into, right? Palworld is on PC, Palworld is on console, right? It's actually insane how much more of a audience that Palworld can appeal to, strictly because the install base is massive. Anybody with a console or anybody with a computer can play Palworld. And on the other side of the coin is Pokemon. You need to buy a $400 console to play Pokemon, right? Or you could buy the regular Switch is $250 or something like that. But you know, the next Gen 10 is going to be Switch 2 exclusive. You and I know that. Okay, it better be. If it's on the Switch 1, we're doomed. Okay, but anyway, so not only is Palworld competition for Pokemon, their install base is way bigger, right? There's way more computers in the world than there are Switches, right? Like, objectively. So it's possible that if Pokemon doesn't stop Palworld could literally become as popular or more popular than Pokemon, because just more people can enjoy it. They don't need to go buy a special piece of gaming hardware. They could just play it on their computer that they've always had. And the evidence for that is that it's already hit 32 million players, which is already more players than Scarlet and Violet has. So you can only imagine just how much more Palworld could grow if they are not part of this big legal battle and they're able to focus on just the game. And honestly, Palworld's recent updates with Terraria were pretty popular. A lot of people really liked that. So Palworld is a force to be reckoned with, and it is causing Nintendo to absolutely dookie in their pants, because for the first time in 25 years, Nintendo might actually have to try to make a good Pokemon game, and they don't know how. I'm gonna say it. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, I don't know who's responsible here. It's probably all of them, to be honest with you. They forgot what Pokemon is about. They forgot how to make a good Pokemon game. They haven't done it in a very long time, and they've never done it on a home console. They don't know how to compete with Palworld, because Palworld is actually a modern good game that prioritizes fun over 45 minutes of cutscenes, hand-holding for the first 3 hours of the game, having completely choppy, broken frame rates with an open world that has no world building, no lore, no story, nothing interesting, and a freaking render distance of 6 feet. That's what Pokemon's capable of producing. They can't compete with Palworld right now, and that's why they are going for the injunction. So I think Nintendo and the Pokemon Company is going to go for the long haul here. I think they're going to drag Palworld and Pocketpair through every possible legal hurdle that they can to slow down the game, to drain them of as much funds as possible, to drain their energy, to do whatever they can to stop this thing, because it's honestly competition that they haven't had in a very long time, and they need it. Boy, do they need it. Palworld succeeding will do more good for Pokemon than they've ever done themselves, because competition breeds excellence, allegedly. Okay, let's not get too political here. Okay, let's not get too economical. All right, Karl Marx. But the point is, okay, if Pokemon actually has to compete with Palworld, who's actually competition, maybe they will finally release a good game. If that doesn't happen, they'll settle out of court. I think that is the second most likely outcome. And third is Palworld wins. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Nintendo will let that happen. They don't want that dark mark on their reputation. But here's the last thing I want to touch on here. And once again, I apologize if you can hear my fan, but I think Palworld has already won in the court of public opinion. I think that Nintendo's reputation right now is already on shaky ground. They've already got a lot going on with the Switch 2 that people don't really like, you know, remotely bricking consoles, and it's completely irreversible. That's not a really good look. $80 games in a landscape where most games are 70 or 60, that's not a very good look, right? There's a lot that people don't like Nintendo for right now, and on top of that, when one of their most beloved franchises, Pokemon, finally has competition, and that competition is decent, it's fun, it's at least a decent game, you can get 20-40 hours out of it, right? Just goofing around and having a great time, right? It doesn't really take itself that seriously. Nintendo looks like a bully. It looks like they are stifling competition. It looks like they are hunting bunching down, they're kicking, they're screaming, they're whining, they're complaining. They can't possibly believe that another company has released a creature capturing game that other people actually think is fun. Nintendo looks really bad in this lawsuit, to be honest with you guys, and I think that in the court of public opinion, I think a lot of people just don't like Nintendo for things like this. Nintendo wields their legal team like a spiked baseball bat, and they're just trying to bludgeon anything in their way. It doesn't matter if it's a ROM site, it doesn't matter if it's a grocery store in Puerto Rico, it doesn't matter who it is. They will take their legal team and they will crush anything that is even a 0.0001% chance of it being a risk to their empire, and people are sick of it. And I think that's why people would love to see Palworld actually win this, or at the very least stick around to continue to make good updates and actually challenge Pokemon and maybe be an even better game than Pokemon is even capable of releasing themselves. But guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I just wanted to bring you an update on the latest with the Pokemon versus Palworld lawsuit and the fact that they are tweaking their patent law in Japan as a Hail Mary last ditch effort to maybe possibly squeeze out a victory if they can. Kind of embarrassing, kind of yikes, real weak aura, Nintendo, to be honest with you. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to win this, and who do you want to win this? Because those two might not be the same exact thing. So let me know in the comments, and while you're down there, drop a thumbs up on the video. It really helps small channels like mine to get this video out into the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to be notified the next time I upload a gaming news video. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.